Thank you, thank you. The reason that I created this podcast is because I want to feel better. So many of the right-wing talk show hosts that I've listened to over the years make me feel worse, more anxious, more fearful, angrier. And I want to feel better, and I want the people who listen to my podcast to feel better after having listened to it than they did at the beginning.
It's true. You'd see all these guys on the phone. They'd be going, yeah, hello, guys. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to be able to go. No, I'm going to have to stay here. She's got my Johnson! No, she won't give it to me. I asked for it all day. Yeah, she's upset. I tried to sneak out of the house with it this morning, and, I was halfway out the driveway. She came around the house, and I had to give it to her right there in the street. Okay, I'll ask her. Hold on. Honey, it's the guys. Well, no, they just called to say that they're all taking theirs. I'm just going to take mine because I didn't want to stand out or anything. Okay. Yeah, she said no way. No, she said the winky stays here, yeah. You guys do me a favor if you see me working on the yard next week and around the house, and will you do me a favor? Kill me. Kill me, I'm in hell. Will you shoot me, poison my food, run me over with the car, whatever it takes? I'm in hell!
Good morning. It's Friday, Police Craft Friday, April the 12th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 strategies of war, and police craft. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Escorts for the colour will advance! By the left! Quick, march!
Thank you. And now, which county is this? It is Frederick County Fire and EMS Dispatch.
Bravo 1656.
Tanker 713 with 2.
Tanker 713 responding.
Chief 23-1, come in. Go ahead, man. When you arrive, you take care of water supply. Yeah. Did they figure out where the fill site's going to be? 9301 Ball Road. It's on the inlet 68.
Ambulance 68, responding 1658.
We're taking that call from first shift.
Ambulance 68, 1658.
10 Frederick, was it? That's correct.
That is correct. 251, you ready for water?
That's correct, Sen.
Officer Assistant Chief 900 to 251. Charge.
X-17 is fine, Freddy.
Tanker 17, responding 1658. Tanker 33 on scene 1658.
Command of the engine company sitting behind tanker 33. What's your number?
It's 331.
Frederick Ambulance 68. Come on up the driveway. You can.
Is Gettysburg still on divert?
Crew's already up there.
Two three one is ready for water.
Chief 23-1. I need a channel for the water supply, and I need police to shut down Ball Road. Chief 23-1, water supply to 9.
Officer Assistant Chief
35's in the area, investigating. Rush 35 in the area, 1700.
Fine needs to go inside and hold the interior. Yes. 231's okay. We're going to stretch the line at front door.
Got that right, 231?
Tanker 7, due to the call. The Tanker Task Force on box 2311, 9510 Ball Road, between Tabler Road and Imesville Road with a house fire, 9 Delta 1700.
Copy. 331, water supply.
Ambulance 1792, 9211 Oak Tree Circle, off of Daysville Road. Injured person from a fall, 9 Bravo 1701.
Yeah, can you confirm if he fell to the basement or if he's just stuck in the third floor? Hey, he fell from the block of the fire room here on the Charlie side into the basement. He was just in the window, fell through.
I'm in the basement.
Command, send a fire task force, okay?
231.
Moved over.
Tanker 7, responding 1701.
And 231's coming your way right now. 153, where's your crew?
Tanker task force, do you want to send a behind it?
EMS 901 to the box.
EMS 901, 9 Delta 1702.
To the floor,
And that was a little bit of Frederick County Fire and EMS dispatch audio. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Patriotic Shorts.
All these angles and jagged edges made the Phantom easy to recognize. Whether you loved them or hate them, they all have reasons for being there. For example, during development, they discovered that the flat wing didn't give enough lateral stability. As you probably know, dihedral, giving the wings a slight upward angle, adds lateral stability. But rather than redesign the entire wing, the engineers gave a lot of dihedral to the outer wing panels.
Do you know that Stalin, USSR's merciless leader, was terrified of General Zhukov? This well-known general earned enormous popularity amongst both the troops and the population in general due to his heroic battlefield victories. He performed key roles in some of the most decisive World War II battles, including defending Moscow and the Battle of Stalingrad, and was instrumental in winning the Battle of Kursk and taking Berlin. This increased popularity represented a threat to Stalin's absolute control and his regime, where the cult of personality and total control were key. The notoriously paranoid Stalin, afraid of potential rivals, saw Zhukov as a threat to his power. Following the war, Stalin took several measures to curb Zhukov's power and influence. He was reassigned to less important military positions and eventually removed from the heart of power.
How are U.S. soldiers different from European soldiers? In Afghanistan, there was a common French saying, "You better pray that you have an American in your unit." A French soldier wrote about his experiences with American soldiers in Afghanistan. If a unit was in trouble, you prayed that an American unit took up the radio call for help. When American forces answered, their reply was, "Sit tight. We are coming to get you." There wasn't any haggling or logistical issues. The Americans were fully committed to your rescue. They came regardless of what the situation was. In fact, they wouldn't ask about specifics until they got close to your position, and often knew the threats in the area before asking what the problem was. He also described an amazing fact, different than all other forces. If an officer was killed, you're taught to dig in and take a defensive position, not the Americans. If an American officer is taken out of commission, they go on the attack. American officers restrain the troops under their command, not for their protection, but for the enemy's. If you kill or injure an American, they are coming for you, and God help you if they are.
When an enemy missile locks onto a fighter jet, what can the pilot do to stop being hit? There are only a few options, and knowing them could save your life. First, by using countermeasures like jamming, spoofing, or tricking the missile's guidance system, the pilot can attempt to break the missile's lock. Because of this, the missile could follow a false target, or even lose sight of the jet. If the missile is infrared guided, the pilot can use flares to create a hotter target than the aircraft. But the pilot could try to outrun the missile by creating as much space as possible between the jet and the missile. If the missile is fired from behind, the pilot can get an advantage in altitude by quickly accelerating and climbing. But if a surface-to-air missile is fired, reducing speed and diving down will help. This can make the missile lose speed and energy. The third option is to pull off an evasive maneuver. The pilot could try to fool the missile's guidance system by performing evasive maneuvers, like sudden changes in direction, speed, and altitude. This can cause the missile to miss or overshoot the fighter jet.
The aircraft itself could carry 18,000 pounds of weapons, but it also carried missiles and bombs. There are 4 AIM-7 that are under the base of the aircraft, and the AIM-9 were carried on the wing. So 4 AIM-7 radar-guided missiles, 4 AIM-9 heat-seeking missiles. And we went through different variants over the years, But the airplane really is versatile. I mean, we could do air-to-air, air-to-ground, and nuclear weapons as before.
Marine Corps brass told him he was too old to fly combat missions, that he was destined for a stateside desk job. But actor Tyrone Power figured out a way to get into combat by volunteering to fly cargo planes in and out of hotspots. With his Hollywood career in full bloom, the Mask of Zorro star didn't hesitate to put it on hold for the chance to serve his country. Defending freedom seemed more important than making movies, he remarked when asked why he became a Marine aviator. Tyrone Power flew dozens of missions supporting the amphibious assaults at Saipan and Iwo Jima, ferrying supplies in and taking the wounded out of those critical battles. On his final mission, his plane came under intense fire. Tyrone Power made a perfect emergency landing in the ocean, saving the lives of his crew, but suffering a broken leg in the process. Ty Power wasn't a good pilot, he was a great pilot, said his friend Jimmy Stewart. He could have flown in my unit any time. He was that good.
We created a really good team, and it exists to this day. We're probably the only unit in Vietnam that has a battalion-size annual reunion where we've gotten to know each other's kids and whatever, and they bring their families, and we probably have the lowest rate of PTSD of any years I've gone through is what we have. And I attribute that, number one, the unit was well trained and had been together for a year and a half prior to deploying to Vietnam. And secondly, the reunions keep relationships going.
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little bit of motivation.
What are the 5 reasons that you won't give up when life catch you on the blind side? When the messenger of misery visits you, what are you going to do? What will keep you in the game when life knocks you to the canvas? See, the Buster Douglas that fought in the last fight was not the Buster Douglas that fought Mike Tyson. See, the Buster Douglas that got knocked down while fighting Mike Tyson had gotten out of an alcohol recovery center. His mother had died. His wife was ill with a terminal illness. He was considered a nothing, a bum. So when he got knocked down, Buster Douglas had a reason to get back up because he said, I'm dedicating this fight to the memory of my mama. So you got to have some reasons that when life knocks you down, and it's going to, it's going to knock you down. When people disappoint you, and that's going to happen. When they betray you, and that's going to happen. When they lie to you, and that's going to happen. When they say, oh, you can count on me, and they won't show up, and that's going to happen. When you want to throw in the towel and give up yourself, and that's going to happen. When life collapses on you and catch you on the blind side, what reason can you remember that you can call on, that you can reach on, that can make you get back up? Find that reason. Because when life had knocked me down, I said, life, I'm doing this because I want to make my mama proud of me. I'm doing this because I want my children to have a better life than what I had. I'm doing this because all my life I've been told I'd be a loser, that I wouldn't make it. I'm doing this to make them a lie. I believe, like Frank Sinatra, he said, the best revenge in life is massive success. I'm doing this so I can become massively successful. And with that kind of courage, with that kind of affirmation and reason to empower me, I got a saying that when life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. So when you run out of money, when things don't work out for you, when things happen that you could not anticipate, what are the reasons that you can think of that can keep you strong, that can keep you in the game, that will be your rod and staff to comfort you, that can be your bridge over troubled waters? Those reasons are very important. Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. So find out the reasons that you do what you do. Find out the reasons that will make you strong, that will make you walk by faith and not by sight, that will make you pursue your dream when everybody is against you or don't believe in you no more. And let me tell you something, that's a lonely feeling. It's a lonely feeling, particularly people that you're doing it for, or people that stand to benefit the most, or people who should be the number one members in the encouragement club, but they end up saying, you can't do it, and they become members of the discouragement club. Oh, it hurts very badly. I know what that's like. Have people that you love close to you that look at you with that look and say, why don't you try something else?
There are a few people in this room that know what it's like to be in a situation where everything in your flesh is saying give up. And yet you're in a situation where sometimes you're standing not because you're so strong, you just don't have any other option. You're just backed in a corner, you know, and it's not that you didn't think about quitting. It's not that you're so tenacious and so strong, but life has got you pressed in a corner and you simply cannot let go of anything, and you have to stand there in the middle of the storm and keep pumping your head with the faith to persevere and just say, just hang in there, just don't give up, just don't give up. Some kind of way you're going to get through this. Great people are people who don't cave in.
And so you've got to be willing to persevere. Because we didn't take no. See, when the world says no, you say next. So what we have is this endless possibility, but you have to persevere. It's as if the universe tests our commitment. So if you're willing to decide what you want, believe it's possible, consciously envision the future, feel the feelings of what it would feel like if you had achieved this goal, you can have anything. And then you take action, both obvious actions and inspired actions. You can do anything.
Don't give up, boy. Don't you quit. You keep keep walking. You keep trying. There is help and happiness ahead. A lot of it. You keep your chin up. It will be all right in the end. Trust God and believe in good things to come.
You write in the book, there is no faith and no courage
And that was a little bit of motivation. Next up is the Daily Law for April the 12th. Back in a minute.
April 12th. Use your enemies. Men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit, because gratitude is a burden and revenge a pleasure. Tacitus. In 1971, during the Vietnam War, Henry Kissinger was the target of an unsuccessful kidnapping attempt, a conspiracy involving, among others, the renowned anti-war activist priests, the Barron brothers, 4 more Catholic priests, and 4 nuns. In private, without informing the Secret Service or the Justice Department, Kissinger arranged a Saturday morning meeting with 3 of the alleged kidnappers. Explaining to his guests that he would have most American soldiers out of Vietnam by mid-1972, he completely charmed them. They gave him some Kidnap Kissinger buttons, and one of them remained a friend of his for years, visiting him on several occasions. This was not just a one-time ploy. Kissinger made a policy of working with those who disagreed with him. Colleagues commented that he seemed to get along better with his enemies than with his friends. Whenever you can, bury the hatchet with an enemy and make a point of putting him in your service. Daily Law. As Lincoln said, you destroy an enemy when you make a friend of him. The 48 Laws of Power, Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends.
And that was the Daily Law for April the 12th from the Daily Laws by Robert Greene. Next up, Bishop Barron.
How do you propagate the faith? With words? Yes, I believe in that, as I've done a lot of that in my life. But above all, you propagate Christ, by being conformed to him. When we do what he did, we bear other people's burdens. We take up the cross every day. When we do that, we become the most effective ambassadors possible for Christ. He uses people like us. I mean, we're unworthy vessels, God knows. But he uses us. So if someone sees you bearing the burdens of another, taking up your cross willingly, loving Jesus above your own life, well, he'll receive Christ through you. And in receiving Christ, he'll receive also the one who sent Christ, namely the Father. And you become thereby an icon of Christ, an ambassador of Christ, and you draw people into the divine love.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. And next up, Ayn Rand. Back in a minute. Quote, morality, like medicine, is a science, which means that one must carefully and systematically study its principles to see that they do indeed flow from the absolute nature of reality and the factual requirements of achieving success and happiness within it. Moral principles must be accepted because we understand firsthand that they are life-serving and happiness-promoting, unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand Thought of the Day. Next up is the 33 Strategies of War. Back in a minute.
Chapter 23. Weave a seamless blend of fact and fiction. Misperception strategies. Since no creature can survive without the ability to see or sense what is going on around it, you must make it hard for your enemies to know what is going on around them, including what you are doing. Disturb their focus and you weaken their strategic powers. People's perceptions are filtered through their emotions. They tend to interpret the world according to what they want to see. Feed their expectations. Manufacture a reality to match their desires, and they will fool themselves. The best deceptions are based on ambiguity, mixing fact and fiction so that the one cannot be disentangled from the other. Control people's perceptions of reality, and you control them. The false mirror. On November 3rd, 1943, Adolf Hitler had a document distributed to his top generals, Directive 51, which discussed his conviction that the Allies would invade France the following year and explained how to beat them. For years, Hitler had depended on a kind of intuition in making his most important strategic decisions, and time and again his instincts had been right. The Allies had tried before to make him believe that an invasion of France was imminent, but each time Hitler had seen through the deception. This time, he was not only sure that the invasion was coming, he felt he knew exactly where it would come. The Pas-de-Calais, the region of France along the English Channel that was the country's closest point to Britain. The Pas-de-Calais had a number of major ports, and the Allies would need a port to land their troops. The region was also where Hitler planned to place his V-1 and V-2 rockets, soon to be operational. With these jet-propelled unmanned missiles so close to London, he could bomb Britain into submission. The English knew he was putting missiles there, and that provided them yet another reason to invade France at the Pas-de-Calais before Hitler could begin his bombing campaign. In Directive 51, Hitler warned his commanders to expect the Allies to wage a major deception campaign to cloak the time and place of the invasion. The Germans had to see through these deceptions and repel the landing. And despite recent setbacks in the German war effort, Hitler felt supremely confident they could. Several years earlier, he had commissioned the construction of the Atlantic Wall, a line of forts up and down the coast from France to Norway, and he had over 10 million soldiers at his disposal, 1 million of them in France alone. The German armaments industry was churning out ever more and better weapons. Hitler also controlled most of Europe, giving him enormous resources and endless options for moving his troops here and there. Finally, to invade France, the Allies would need a massive armada, which, once assembled, would be impossible to conceal. Hitler had infiltrated agents into all levels of the British military who supplied him with excellent intelligence. They would forward to him the time and location of the invasion. The Allies would not surprise him. And once he had defeated them on the shores of France, England would have to sue for peace. Roosevelt would certainly lose the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Hitler could then concentrate his entire army against the Soviet Union and finally defeat it. In truth, the invasion of France was the opportunity he craved to turn the war around. Hitler's commander in Western Europe was Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, Germany's most respected general. To further solidify the defensive position in France, Hitler made General Erwin Rommel the commander of the forces along the French coast. Rommel proceeded to make improvements in the Atlantic Wall, turning it into a devil's garden of minefields and fire zones. Rommel and Rundstedt also asked for more troops to ensure that the Germans could repel the Allies at the water's edge. But the Führer denied their request. Hitler had lately come to mistrust his top staff. In the past few years, he had survived several assassination attempts that had clearly originated among his officers. His generals were increasingly arguing with his strategies, and in his mind, they had botched several battles in the Russian campaign. He saw many of them as incompetents or traitors. He began to spend less time with his officers and more time holed up in his Bavarian mountain retreat at Berchtesgaden with his mistress Eva Braun and his beloved dog Blondie. There he pored over maps and intelligence reports, determined to make the important decisions himself and to manage the entire war effort more directly. This caused a change in his way of thinking. Instead of making quick, intuitive choices, he was trying to foresee every possibility and was taking longer to make up his mind. Now he thought Rommel and Rundstedt, in their request for more troops to be transferred to France, were being overly cautious and even panicky. He alone would have to foil the Allied invasion. It was up to him to see through his generals' weaknesses and the enemy's deceptions. The only downside to this was that his workload had increased tenfold, and he was more tired than ever. At night, he took sleeping pills. By day, whatever he could get his hands on to keep him alert. Early in 1944, key information arrived in Hitler's hands. A German agent in Turkey stole classified documents confirming that the Allies would invade France that year. The documents also indicated plans for an imminent invasion of the Balkans. Hitler was particularly sensitive to any threats to the Balkans, a valuable source of resources for Germany. A loss there would be devastating. The threat of such an attack made it impossible to transfer troops from there to France. Hitler's agents in England also discovered plans to invade Norway, and here Hitler actually reinforced his troops to ward off the threat. By April, as Hitler pored over intelligence reports, he began to feel increasingly excited. He discerned a pattern in the enemy activity. As he had thought, everything pointed toward an invasion of the Pas-de-Calais. One sign particularly stood out, indications of an enormous army forming in southeastern England under the command of General George Patton. This army, called FUSAG, 1st United States Army Group, was clearly positioned for a crossing to the Pas-de-Calais. Of all the Allied generals, Hitler feared Patton the most. He had proven his military skill in North Africa and Sicily. He would be the perfect commander for the invasion. Hitler demanded more information on Patton's army. High-flying reconnaissance planes photographed enormous military camps, docking equipment, thousands of tanks moving through the countryside, a pipeline being built to the coast. When a captured German general who had been imprisoned in England was finally repatriated, he caught glimpses of massive activity in the FUSAG area on his trip from his internment camp to London. Agents in Switzerland reported that every map of the Pas-de-Calais area had been mysteriously bought up. The pieces of a giant puzzle were coming together.
And that was the 33 Strategies of War, beginning of Chapter 23, Wave a Seamless Blend of Deception, from the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. If you are a Democrat, you should be voting Republican because the Republican Party is the true party of civil rights. It always has been. It was the party of civil rights in the Civil War, and right after the Civil War, it is the party that came up with the first three civil rights bills, all that were killed by Democrats, by the way. So it's the Republican Party that has always been about civil rights. So if you as a Democrat are interested in civil rights, you need to vote Republican and become a Republican. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Stuart Varney's My Take.
Now this. We have terror alerts on several fronts. It's going to be a tense weekend. FBI Director Christopher Wray told Congress he's concerned about, quote, twisted individuals inspired by events in the Mideast. As he was speaking, by the way, pro-Hamas demonstrators appeared in the background with bloody hands. Wray is referring to terror suspects who have illegally crossed our southern border. One of them, Mohammed Karwin, a member of a terror group, entered illegally in 2023, spent a year here. What was he doing? He's on the terror watch list, but twice judges released him. Apart from our security, think of the politics here. If there's a terror incident here in America by people who cross the border illegally, Biden's open border will get the blame, and he cannot say it's the Republicans' fault now, can he? Overseas, according to the Wall Street Journal, an Iranian attack on Israel is expected in the next 2 days. It could be an attack on American assets in the region. We just don't know. But again, think of the politics here. Biden has appeased Iran. He's relaxed and ignored sanctions, allowing the mullahs to bring in tens of billions in oil revenue, which they've used to buy weapons for terrorists. If we had a secure border, if we had a president who got things under control, would we be facing this terror threat? If we'd not appeased Iran, if we had a president who droned their terror chief like Trump did, would Iran be menacing Israel and America? Joe Biden opened the border. Joe Biden showed weakness with Iran. Now we will all pay the price. Second hour of Barney just getting started.
And I have to say is if ands and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas. Secondly is nonprofit news now. And then third is about the border. It's all about social security and shoring it up. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Policecraft, Chapter 16, The Projects.
16. The Projects. Housing projects are a great metaphor for the government's relationship to poor folks. These huge islands, built mostly in the middle of nowhere, designed to warehouse lives. People are still people, though, so we turned the projects into real communities, poor or not. We played in fire hydrants and had cookouts and partied, music bouncing off concrete walls. The rest of the country was freed of any obligation to claim us, which was fine because we weren't really claiming them either. Jay-Z, Decoded. If you seek to do meaningful police work, you have to be dialed in to the public housing in your sector, which can vary from old military barracks to semi-nice apartments to decrepit towers where Gollum would be at home. Subsidized housing is designed to be temporary, but many families have stayed for decades, seeing the projects not as a temporary way station to a better life, but as a final destination. To live in public housing, your income has to be below a certain line. Then the city takes around a third of your paycheck for rent. If you are unemployed, you live rent-free. Residents of public housing will tell you there's no point in working because they'll just have to pay more rent. And some folks who do have jobs don't want promotions or better jobs because that too would make their rent go up. So what they're looking for is side work with tax-free revenue. That's why public housing features underground businesses. There's always a candy house where someone with a Costco card buys sweets in bulk, brings it back to their apartment, and sells it at a profit because their customers rarely leave the block. Others offer cigarettes or pirated DVDs. Sometimes you'll see a mini barber shop. And then there's always good old-fashioned street crime to make ends meet. After an armed robbery, at least one responding police unit will break from the pack and head right to the nearest housing project in anticipation of the suspect's return. The waiting list for public housing swells, but projects make up some of the most violent and depressed spots in the city. Sure, the rent is subsidized, but no one is living the high life. The apartments themselves are often in disrepair, with holes in the ceiling, pervasive mold, and inoperable smoke detectors. You have to mind bringing heavy weapons inside, as an AR-15, the standard patrol rifle for many departments, can punch right through a thin project wall and kill an innocent person 3 rooms over. It would cost millions to make the projects more livable, money the city is reluctant to pay. There is no post office in the projects, no gym, no florist. The lone neighborhood business boasts a large sign that says, "Here to win, here to stay, but it's long since closed down, with graffiti scrawled across the front door that says, "Enrique is a bitch." After dark, some motorists treat red lights like stop signs to avoid having their car stolen at gunpoint. Some seniors are so frightened they won't go outside alone even though they need their blood pressure meds. In 2005, in San Francisco's Visitation Valley projects, a new child's playground was built to signal a kind of renaissance, bolstered by a $250,000 donation from the Dave Matthews Band. The renaissance didn't last. The jungle gym was set on fire. Twice. It's instructive to take rookie cops on a tour through the projects. Show them the alcoves and recesses where danger waits. Advise them that suspects fleeing the police often toss their gun on a rooftop to come back for later. A thinking cop will rouse the fire department from their deep palatial slumber and soft-serve yogurt to bring their ladder truck to check those roofs. Teach them that if you're chasing a suspect and he goes over a fence, avoid blindly going over it in the same spot the bad guy did. Move to a different location on the fence and pop just your head over the edge in case he's on the other side waiting to shoot you. If you go past a house where music is playing loudly, you let the new cops know that doesn't always mean someone is home. Folks in the projects keep the music on so burglars will think the house is occupied and leave them alone. The rookies might point out that this is a waste of electricity. "This is the project," you explain. "They don't pay for their electricity. You do." Officers who regularly work public housing know that in the project, it is an encouraging sign that no one has been beaten unconscious since the day before yesterday. They are accustomed to project lingo. If someone is hurt and is gushing blood, an onlooker will note, matter-of-factly, "You leaking, man." When housing police are on patrol and see a couple of guys working on a vehicle with the hood up, their first thought won't be car trouble. It will be stolen car trouble. Project dogs like to rumble with each other because they aren't raised right. So you often find yourself looking to break up a dog fight. A bucket of water is good. Pepper spray is better. You can grab a dog's hind legs, but you may become the focus of its ire. If you want to pry a dog's jaws off the person he's biting, you pull the dog's collar straight up and push his mouth right in the direction of the bite. It'll cause a gag reflex, and he'll unclamp. But while the projects can be both lethal and chaotic, some of the dangers are overblown, like the rats you'll encounter. Yes, they are nasty, disease-ridden critters, but are all the stories surrounding them true? Are some as big as cats? Do they bite sleeping babies? The answers are no, and sometimes, though rat bites can come if there's an odor of food in the crib. Cold comfort to be sure, but in public housing, you'll take any kind of comfort you can get. As a cop, you won't always have a lot of fans in the projects. If you lose your handheld radio, which can happen during a foot chase, it often falls into the wrong hands. The standard battery life is only about 10 hours, but that's 10 hours of everyone on your radio channel having to endure sporadic on-air giggling and periodic taunts of, "Popo ain't shit." Make an arrest in the project, and everyone spills out to watch you, curse you, or intervene on the arrestee's behalf. So you try to expedite things. No need to stir up the hornet's nest if you can avoid it, and heaven help you if you get on the PA and order the crowd to disperse, because that guarantees the crowd will triple. So you get your arrest in the back of the car and whisk him out of there. Some working cops bristle at this fast-track approach, seeing it as akin to retreat. We should not adjust to them, they should adjust to us. And there's something to that. But one of the fundamental goals in urban law enforcement is riot avoidance. When you have a serious crime, you conduct a canvass of the block. This involves knocking on doors to ask people if they saw, heard, or know anything related to the case you're investigating. Such efforts often flounder in the projects. Ask some public housing residents if they heard anything, and they'll tell you they heard screaming. You ask why they didn't call 911, and they tell you the man next door beats his wife, and the woman downstairs beats her kids. There's always screaming, they explain. There's always cars peeling out. There's always gunshots. Some folks won't even come to the door, although you'll see movement at the peephole and someone peering out at you from the curtains. Or they'll talk to you from behind the door without opening it, or from an upper balcony without deigning to come down. You're just a cop trying to solve a violent felony. You aren't quite worth descending 10 steps for. Others will answer the door and be angry from the jump for reasons having nothing to do with the matter at hand, demanding instead to know where you were when their son got shot at the basketball court last winter. Or they're so paranoid about being seen as the snitch on the block that they tell you they don't know nothing before you can even tell them why you're there. And they tell you not to come back, because you know what people gonna think. Or the door opens and you are hit with a plume of pungent weed from some doper who struggles to lash together a coherent sentence. Guy just got robbed outside. You see anything? Hear anything? I don't know, comes the long, drawn-out reply. There a reward? Yes, I said once. The deep internal satisfaction you get from doing the right thing. At the time of this writing, that particular case remains unsolved. Wanted felons dot the projects, which means you're giving quite a few guys you pass by second looks. Is that the man from the wanted flyer, or do you know him from another case where he was a suspect/victim/witness? There are those in the project who resent your prolonged eye contact and demand to know if you've got a problem. You don't much care if you've ruffled their feathers. You're the cops, and it's your job to do some occasional feather ruffling. But there are still ways to downplay such an encounter. When someone asks you what your deal is, maybe you tell them you were just talking to your partner about how much they look like a local sports hero, Hunter Pence or Draymond Green. No matter what the race of the complaining party, I periodically claim I thought they were my cousin from upstate. If they ask the cousin's name, I say Ned.
And that was Chapter 16, The Projects from Policecraft by Adam Plantinga. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.